Is it started?
All right, everybody, how you doing? I'm James Valentine. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Samuel Hanson. We are going to discuss mainly his testimony. He is currently living in Michigan. He just graduated high school, which is, as you'll learn, one of his biggest accomplishments. And he is currently preparing to go to college at Christ for the Nation University.
Yep.
So we're
in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas, all the heat. All right, Sam, thanks for coming on. So for those of you who don't know, Sam is the videographer, so he's always behind the camera, but I decided it'd be awesome to have him on because he has quite a powerful testimony. So Sam, why don't you start us off? Just thanks for coming on, and what are you excited for?
So I'm excited to share my testimony today. For most of you watching, I don't know if you know, but I was actually diagnosed when I was 1 year old with a lung disease called cystic fibrosis. And basically, the lung disease, it hindered me from doing anything super active, or I couldn't be super athletic because it was just so hard for me to breathe and just perform at a high level. So when we talked to the doctors, they told me that for most of my life I would have a very low lung capacity, and most of the time I was probably at 30 to 40% lung capacity my entire life, which is pretty bad, and it was really hard to do a lot of stuff. But so let me start from the beginning. I was born in Jerusalem. My parents were on a missions trip in Israel when I was born, and I think I lived there, if I remember, I think it was 2 years, and then we moved down to Florida. We lived in Sarasota, Florida for a lot of the time, and then I had my sister and my brother were born down there. We lived there for a couple years and then moved up here and lived with my grandparents, and then we moved into our own place, and I am now the current oldest of 5 in our family, so that's been going great. Yeah.
All right, so you were diagnosed at 1, so obviously you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, no.
When did you kind of start to realize you were, you had that low lung capacity that was going to really affect you?
So I think it impacted my parents more than it impacted me at first, because obviously I was 1 year old, so it was hard for me to comprehend all of that and understand everything. So it kind of hit me as I grew older, but I could definitely see throughout all the years of growing up that it definitely impacted my parents. They had to do all of the taking care of me and take me to the hospital and stuff. I was hospitalized probably close to 8 to 10 times a year, and maybe 1, 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
Wow.
Almost 4 years in a row I missed Christmas, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was pretty bad. But I think when it really hit me was probably around maybe 10 when I was 10. It was I remember thinking I'm not going to be able to do all the things a normal person would, and obviously we were trusting God at the time to really heal me and step in and yeah, but yeah, it was hard.
Yeah, I bet. So I haven't talked too much about it. So when did you first start to heal? Because now, from what I know, you're doing great.
Yeah.
And you're about to go to college. You didn't think you could graduate high school.
Right.
Now you're going to college. So kind of walk me through. So give me your testimony, starting from when you started to feel better.
Okay. So honestly, I didn't start to feel better till about maybe 2 years ago now. So back in 2018, me and my dad went on a missions trip back to Israel with a tour group my dad was helping lead. And he's good friends with a pastor down there from Florida, and he wanted to lead a tour group there. So my dad and I helped out with it because we kind of know the area. And we went down, and in 2018, I think it was in September or October when we went, my health was just going down, and it was going down bad.
Yeah.
So it was hard, and I didn't know at the time because my parents just recently told me, they had the full conversation with me recently, but I was on the verge of the doctors explaining to them that I might not have much time left.
Yeah.
Because apparently when you have cystic fibrosis, your lungs can only survive for like a certain amount of time. So like right around the age that I am right now would be the time that an average person who has cystic fibrosis wouldn't be able to like go anymore, and they would like die or whatever. So I think in 2018, yeah, it was pretty brutal for my parents. Obviously, I didn't know because they didn't want to like scare me or anything, so they haven't told me that I was like on the verge of like dying. So when I got back from the trip, my parents talked to the doctors, and they said that this next year, whatever, is probably going to be pretty hard because it's not going to be too good because this is like the year that's like you're going to see my health really go down. So then in 2019, we took our whole family to Israel as like a family trip, and we stayed there for a month, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we stayed there for a month, and then my parents kind of treated the trip as like this is the last time that our son is going to like be in this spot where he was born. So yeah, I didn't know that until a little bit ago, and then after we got home from the trip, we were offered so there's this the iHeart radio station, Jay Towers. He does like these Disney World trips for kids with disabilities every year, and we were picked. Our family was picked.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we went down to Disney World with a group of like kids with disabilities, and we were having a lot of fun. And then basically the doctors told us like after you come home from this trip, he needs to be hospitalized. Like his health is so bad right now. Like,
how do they know that if you weren't even?
So I think from what I remember, before we went down to Disney World, like in between us getting back from Israel and then going to Florida for Disney World, we went to the doctor and they did like a checkup or whatever, and then they do this lung test where I have to like blow into a tube, and then it will like tell me like what my lung capacity is, like my lung percentage, and I think it was like really low, it was like 30 something. Okay. So yeah, and then basically they knew at that point that my lung capacity was going down fast, so they needed to get me back into the hospital as soon as possible, but at the same time they wanted me to have fun on the trip just in case it was my last one.
Yeah.
So yeah, they almost held me back from actually going on to the Disney World trip with my family because it was so bad. And then when we got back, I do remember being hospitalized for a pretty long time. And then
how long would you say?
Probably around a month or longer.
Dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then but basically my parents were just like crying out. I was crying out too, but I didn't understand like the full capacity of everything. And I definitely did not know that I was on the verge of like possibly my life ending in the near future.
So my question would be why? Like if you're in the hospital for a month, like did you feel it, or it's something you don't feel, it's just gonna happen?
I don't necessarily remember feeling like I was gonna pass away or anything.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I could tell that my health was a little bit lower and like I felt a little bit more tired or exhausted than usual. But I was so used to like the whole process and everything. Like how it always happened. It was so often that I would go into the hospital. It's like it was casual for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't really take anything big out of it. So yeah, but every time I would go into the hospital, I would pretty much like cry out to God and like ask for help. But I could really tell something was wrong with my parents this time. Like it was different. I could feel it from them personally, and I didn't really understand until a little bit ago. But so we cried out to God and like prayed for healing or like a miracle. And they discharged me from the hospital because my health had gone a little bit up just because of like medications and stuff. Yep. So they thought that I might be doing a little bit better, but they said that it's still possible that something could happen in the near future. And I think it was maybe a couple months after they had brought out a new medication. It was called Trikafta, and it's for cystic fibrosis patients. So me and my sisters, because I have two younger sisters, well, I have three younger sisters, but two of them also were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think they didn't go through like the process of that I went through. Like it wasn't as severe because I was kind of like the head of those three in the process. So it was like once we knew what to do with me, it was kind of like we applied it to them so that what happened to me wouldn't happen to them, kind of situation. And I remember they came out with the medication and we started taking it, and all over like the world, the cystic fibrosis patients that were taking the medication had like a huge impact on their health. Like their health was skyrocketing. Like,
Okay.
it got so good.
Awesome.
And so basically all of my life I've been taking all these medications at home and doing like respiratory treatments every day. And ever since I've been taking that medication, they've taken me off maybe like 50% of my medications
Oh, wow.
or more. And I recently haven't been doing as much respiratory treatments. It just kind of depends on how I feel. Like, sometimes I'll feel a little bit stuffed up or something like that, just like mucus-wise or something, and then they'll have me do respiratory treatments. But yeah, ever since I've taken that pill, I haven't been hospitalized for 2 years.
Awesome.
Yeah, same with my siblings.
It's
it's
really
been great.
nice timing.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
So during this whole process, how would you say your faith in God impacted you?
I feel like even growing up in a Christian home, I feel like most Christians who, like teenagers now especially, like growing up in a Christian home now, they don't take it seriously, maybe, if that's how I want to say it. Like, they don't take it seriously. Like, it's not like their own relationship with God. They kind of treat it as like their parents are not making them do it, but like their parents do it, so I do it. And then I feel like that's kind of how I treated it for a little while. But then as going through like the process of like all of that, I kind of realized that this is a real situation. Like, my health is real. And I remember, so my family celebrates Hanukkah every year.
Yeah.
So I remember one year our dad said, like, basically, I want you guys to like personally give your lives to God and not treat it as like your parents are doing it anymore. So I remember very clearly giving my life to God that night, and I remember my other siblings doing it too. And since that night, I've definitely taken it more seriously. And along the journey of like my health and everything, I definitely feel a lot closer to God, because there were so many times that I would be in like the hospital bed or something, and my parents would have to like go grab food or something or go visit people at home, and then I would be just laying in bed just crying out to God, like having my own conversations with him. So I definitely feel very close to God right now. All of that has definitely helped.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I feel like that could be like a reason that God put that in my life, is like to grow my relationship with him, because like there could be other scenarios where I may not have like gotten as close as I am now, and he kind of treated that as like a way to get me as close as I am, because I definitely feel very close to him because of all of that.
Yeah, I definitely haven't experienced anything as close to that as you, but I've definitely heard stories, and I can imagine how, I mean, your life almost, you kind of realize, like, looking back at it, this was a real situation.
Right.
And kind of having that moment like, wow, I have one life. I have, like, I almost didn't have this life.
Yeah.
So I bet that thought really kind of not haunted you, but kind of woke you up.
Yeah.
And brought you spiritually closer to God.
Yeah, it definitely did. Like I said, I just remember laying in bed, in the hospital bed, just crying out to him. And when we lived in Florida, actually, it was a couple years after I was diagnosed, I actually saw God face to face. I was laying in my bedroom one time, I think I was facing the wall, because my bedroom bed was like right on the wall. So I was laying facing the wall, and then I saw like this reflection on the wall appear, as if there was a light behind me. So I turned around, and at the time, this was like when we were also praying for like a major like miracle in my healing, because it was a more tough moment. And I remember turning around in my bed and seeing a super bright figure standing right there, and on his side was like this angel with blue wings, and they were like on fire, and it was blue. It was so crazy. And I remember like the angel introducing himself, and he told me his name was Samuel, and I was like, wow, this is cool.
Okay.
And then I remember trying to like make out the figure, like trying to see the figure that was so bright just standing there, but it was so bright I couldn't see anything. And I remember him saying that he was Jesus, and he laid his hand on me and he said, "I will heal you."
Yeah.
And then I was like, that was a big moment for me. Like, I've told so many friends about that story, and my parents, I ran out of the room after he left, and like screamed to my parents. I was like, "I saw Jesus! I saw Jesus!" And they're like, "What? What did he look like?" So then I remember very clearly, like that night, just sitting down for like another hour, trying to describe what I saw and like talking to them about it. It was so cool. Yeah.
So you basically, when was that?
That was probably like, when did we move to Florida? Like 2007, 8 maybe?
So that was a
2007,
long time
2008,
ago.
yeah.
Okay.
It was a while ago. And then I remember the same thing happened when we lived up here actually too. He visited me one more time. This time I was sharing a room with my brother. He was on the top bunk and I was on the bottom bunk. and same thing happened. I was looking at the wall, and I saw a reflection, and I turned around, and there was a bright figure, the same one I saw last time, except for this time I could see that he was wearing a purple sash around him, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then there was another angel. He looked kind of similar to the one before, just his wings were a little bit bigger, and then he told me that the angel told me his name was Jeremiah, and I was like, wow, that's cool.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I think my dad was trying to figure out, like, he was conflicted at the time if he should go on a trip to Israel with his friend for another tour trip. I couldn't go at the time, so I wasn't going to go, but he was, like, conflicted if he should or not, or if he should stay back with the family and spend time with us. And I remember that time for Jesus visiting me, he wasn't there to tell me anything about my health. He was actually there to confirm a word for my dad and tell him to go. So, yeah, that was cool. I remember telling my dad, Jesus came to me, you need to go to Israel.
So were these dreams or this?
No, this was very real, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I could reach out and touch him, but it was, like, so bright, like, I couldn't see anything except for the angel figure right there. And I was like, yeah, it was so cool.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I can't picture that. Like, I've never had anything happen to me.
Right.
And like, I don't know how that would feel or how that, like, yeah, I don't know what to say about that, honestly. Like, that's
Yeah.
really cool. I've never experienced anything like that. So how do those two encounters with Jesus kind of, I guess that makes it very real. So you're
Yeah.
able to kind of realize this is so real that everything in this Bible is true, and I need to follow it, and I need to listen to it. So how did those specifically affect you?
Yeah, on that, I remember growing up sometimes, I would think, like, there's so many religions in the world. What if the religion that we believe, like Christianity, what if this is just one of those ones that we believe, but in the end, like,
It's not true.
It's not true. It's not real. And I remember reminding myself, like, of those encounters. I'm like, but I saw him face to face. I was like, I could have reached out and touched him. I saw the angel. They talked to me. I'm like, it's real. It has to be real. And then I always use that as, like, my turn point, kind of like I'd always turn back to that and really just use that as, like, confirmation and, like, it's reality. Like, what we believe, Christianity, following after Jesus Christ, it's all real. It was right there in front of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of gives you the chills, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine how you were feeling after that.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was definitely, like, struck. Like, I couldn't even believe my own eyes. Like, I didn't even believe it happened. But, like, sometimes I think now, like, looking back on it, I can even see it more clear than I did in the moment, which is kind of crazy because it's like, so I could kind of treat that as, like, a vision, like, looking back on the memory, God's showing me it more clear than I see it now. I remember one time, too, I was actually thinking about, like, all of my this is once I was healed. I was thinking about all of my past, like, hospital experiences, and going through my memories, I literally, like, saw Jesus standing right next to my hospital bed. Like, it was crazy. Like, I did not, like, in the moment in the hospital, I would have never seen that. And then, like, going back through the memories, I literally, like, see this figure just standing next to my hospital bed the entire time.
Well, yeah, I guess so you see that, you can relate that to seeing that he was with you every time.
Yep.
And he kind of brought you through that.
Yeah.
All right, so bring me to now. Like, how you feeling? What are you excited to do?
Now I am living a healthy life, thankfully, and I always like to, whenever I share my testimony, I always like to tell God that He wrote my story, and now I get to tell it. So now I am still living in Michigan in the Southfield area, living a happy life. I just graduated high school, which I never thought was going to happen due to all the hospital situations. I was so behind in high school and, like, all of my schoolwork just because of, like, being hospitalized. I couldn't do anything. So honestly, that was, like, a thought I had for so long. Like, I'm never going to be able to graduate high school. How am I going to get this done? But just last year, I graduated high school. That was pretty big for me.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
awesome.
And then in May, me, my younger sister, who is the second oldest of us five, and my dad, we went down to Dallas, Texas, to check out a college that I'm interested in. It's called Christ for the Nations, CFNI. It's where my parents went, and they actually met there.
Okay.
So we went down there and to check it out, see if that's somewhere I might want to be. And as I was down there, we were in one of their, like, encounter services, and I was kind of just, like, in, like, the deep presence of the Lord and, like, really just crying out to Him. And I remember asking him, like, in my prayer while I was there, if this is where I need to be, I need confirmation. Like, I need you to show me this. And literally, like, I'm not even kidding, maybe 10 seconds after I said that, this older man that was standing in the front row comes up to me, and he, like, asks my dad if he can pray for me. And my dad's like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, can I pray for you? I'm like, yeah, go right ahead. So then he, like, lays his hands on me, and he starts praying for me, and he's saying all this stuff like, God's telling me that you need to be a man. It's time to grow up. It's time to move on. It's like, it's time for you to take this next step in your journey with me. And he then at the end of his prayer, he goes, oh, by the way, that question you asked, the answer is yes. And I was like, wow.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, that is crazy. I was like, wow, that is so cool, God. And then, yeah, I just remember every time now I'm like, my parents are like, so are you sure you want to go there? You sure you want to go there? I was like, it doesn't even matter if I don't want to go there. God literally told me, yes, I have to go there.
It's very,
Yeah, so I'm
That's
going
awesome
down
story.
to Christ for the Nations now. I need to be down there August 12th. That's when the new students start orientation. I'm going to be studying youth ministry.
Okay. Yeah, so you're hoping to go into youth ministry. Tell me more about that.
So back probably about 2-3 years ago now, we went to a church out in Canton. It's called Connection Church. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But we got, like, connected with their youth group from a friend of mine. He brought us there one time, and we started going there consistently. And then it became, like, our home youth group, like, where we'd go every Wednesday night and do all of their events and stuff. And over time, I became part of their leadership team, and I just grew such a passion for, like, youth ministry over doing all of that stuff. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to spend, like, my time. This is what I want to do. And then I remember I was also conflicted at the time because I wanted to do ministry work too, like, not ministry work, missions work. I wanted to get involved in the missions field and be a missionary. So I'm like, God, how do I do this and this? Like, am I called to one? Am I called to both, or what? And then I remember really just praying about it one night, and I remember him showing me, like, I want you to do both, but I want youth ministry to be, like, what you're really doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, okay. And then, yeah, I remember getting a vision from him. I guess you could call it a vision, but I had a story from a friend. He was like, he was telling me a story. He's like, bro, imagine being able to do youth ministry and be a missionary at the same time. Go, like, travel around the world and do, like, youth ministry.
Yeah.
Like, not have a specific church that you're part of, or, like, a specific
Youth ministry.
Yeah, just, like, being able to travel all around the world and minister to youth. And I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm gonna go. That's what I'm doing. And then I remember feeling, like, all the shivers and tingles about it. I'm like, yep, this is where I'm called. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to study. Ever since I've been at that youth group, I've just always felt called to the youth ministry. I've had such a passion for it. And then we left the church because we felt like it was just time to move on. And we're going to our grandparents' church right now.
Okay.
They don't have too much of a youth community at that church. It's kind of like older people. But yeah, so I haven't had too much experience with, like, youth ministry at that church. A lot of my cousins go there, and they probably have, like, 3 or 4 kids in the class or something like that. And one of my cousins helps lead it. But yeah, I haven't had too much youth ministry experience at that church, but I'm so excited to go down to Texas and really just get involved, because I know they host a youth summer camp every summer. I think it's like 5 weeks long or something like that, with, like, a bunch of different groups of kids coming in, and I definitely want to be a part of that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
super hyped.
Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you sharing your testimony. I know that's hard to do.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So I'll pray us out.
All right.
And then post this episode. Awesome.
All right, sounds good.
All right, dear Jesus, thank you for Sam. Thank you for giving him the courage to come on and talk about his story. And thank you for giving him the courage to live through all these challenges that he's went through and trusting you through each and every step. I pray that you continue to bless him with good health, Lord, and that he excels at college and spreading your word in the youth ministries abroad. And in your name I pray, amen.
Amen.
All
yeah,
right.
Thanks for having me out.
Of course. See ya.
All right, see you.
All right, good job, bro.
Sweet.
Dude, that's the craziest story.
I know.
That's awesome, man.